happy that we're here. We are here with another live stream, and today we're going to have a very special guest. Not the first time that you've appeared on our live streams.
Correct.
We're going to be talking about federalism once again, but like always, I want to make sure that people can hear us. Once again, I know that the video quality probably isn't going to be the best. I've heard that a small trick that you can do is put the live stream 1 or 2 seconds back so that you have the best quality. We apologize, but the Wi-Fi isn't really working today with us. So, oh, someone says audio is bad. Hopefully we're using the correct audio. What is the opinion of audio? Fine audio, someone says. Okay, I got 2 mixing reports. That's always nice. Good. So without further ado, please, could you introduce yourself to those that are uninitiated, and the political party that you represent, and a bit about why you got into politics, just to have a start, a baseline.
Okay, my name is Gozi. I'm a member of the European Parliament. I'm Italian, but I've been elected in France twice. First time in 2019 and second time in 2024. So my goal here, my main mission is to embody transnational politics and European citizenship. I have been previously member of the Italian National Parliament for 12 years. I've been Europe Minister for 4 years and a half, and I've always been very committed to federalism and European federalism cause. I have got the honor to be the president of the Union of European Federalists for 4 years and a half. Politically, I was elected in the list of Emmanuel Macron in France. I belong to the Renew Europe group, and I'm the Secretary General now of the European Democrats, European Democratic Party, which is one of the 2 European parties of the Renew Alliance, together with the other party, which is the Liberal Party.
Sure. Okay. So, like I already said, we've had you on before, and it was all about federalism, and we kind of want to continue that conversation, especially in the light of quite big developments around the world, especially when looking at the United States, but still the war in Ukraine. So I wanted to ask you, what is federalism to you now?
The only real answer and the only way forward for Europe to tackle effectively some important global challenges. If we want to take back control, to use a catchword of the Brexiteers, if we want to be effective, if we want to get back the capacity to being effective on issues such as climate change, migration, the finance and digital challenges, all issues that get out of the scope of action of the member state, we need to build up a federal Europe. So when we say we would need a European action today, we need a federal approach.
Okay, loud and clear. I want to address the audience once again, just to make sure. We know that the audio of the video quality is a little bit on the lower side. We apologize for that, but a trick that helps is if you take the video, put it a few seconds back, it has more time to buffer, so the quality will be better, and hopefully there's a better viewing experience for you. But back to our questions. So I wanted to ask your vision, if it at all has changed because of these larger events like the United States election. Is there a more, or okay, how should I put this? Is there a higher chance now with a Trump presidency for the ideas that you're advocating for, or lower? What is the expectation?
There is a stronger evidence, but there was also in 2016. Let's say that this time we can say that the Trump phenomenon is not an accident, like we could think or hope in 2016, but there is a structural tendency in politics in several countries that goes along the Trump approach, which is a nationalistic, isolationist approach, and that this approach is something against which we do not have yet all the necessary instruments and political strategies. So it is clear that when President Trump seems to say to disengage from European security, that plead in favor of a stronger responsibility on security of the European, then how do you go along the road of European strategic autonomy, European military strategies. You can do it only behind closed door, only among generals, only among diplomats, or you can decide to do it in a democratic way. So to use the European Union framework to be both effective and more democratic when you talk about security, borders control, fighting for your peace, fighting against organized crime. And these are, after all, the difference between the typical diplomatic operation and the federalist approach. The federal approach is a more democratic approach.
Yeah, sure. And you could almost make the argument that this might be even a kick for Europe, these developments to start going more into this direction. I'm curious, in your experience, have you seen maybe a shift in the political or public opinion towards maybe more being more open for a European army, for example, or closer cooperation when it comes to EU defense? So public opinion, and I'm also curious about your fellow MEP colleagues or other politicians. Have you seen any change or any more of a positive look on federalism among your colleagues?
On public opinion, if we want to look at the public opinion, there is a trend which has been going on for years, even before the Russian aggression of Ukraine. Yep. It has been already for many years that the public opinion say that we would like a European army. Yep. But of course, I mean, that is not the correct expression of what we want to do, but they want to do Europe more to ensure their defense and security. What has changed, especially after the Russian aggression against Ukraine, that also among the key makers, among the member of the council, so the head of state and government, and within the parliament, there is a growing awareness that we go toward that direction. Okay. That, of course, the devil is in detail. How do we go, with money, with budget? What does it mean building up a European military strategy? If you want, we have also decided a strategic framework, because in these years we have adopted a strategy called the European Compass, which is a strategy where we identify our objective in terms of security and defense, and we even say we have even committed to have a 5,000 soldier European reaction force. So I mean, but the point is that we have to give ourselves the financial and military means to be credible, and that is a work that absolutely is still to do.
Sure. And it sounds like the question no longer is for most people if we should do this, but more how. How do you structure this entire model that we're seeing in front of us? How do we do this closer cooperation? So in that sense, I guess the discussion has shifted. I was curious because a topic on our YouTube channel right now is the actual models a federation would look like. And we recently covered the Swiss model, and I was curious if you had any inspiration or any ideas of certain already existing models of federalism that the European Union could follow.
I think that, the European federalism is European, is sui generis, as any form of federalism after all, because if you look at Switzerland, you find different experiences compared to Canada. If you look to Canada, you find a different federalism compared to Germany. If you look to Germany, you see that the Indian Union is very different. And also, after all, the European approach is something which is also pretty unique, pretty recent. For me, what does it mean, federalism? Federalism means to be efficient in the decision-making process. That means that federalism cannot coexist with veto. If you want to keep the veto power in the council, in a place where we take decision, you stick to the traditional diplomatic intergovernmental approach. But I think that we cannot afford it. And on the other side, federalism means that the decisions are not only taken by government, but also taken by the representatives of the citizens in the European Parliament. So federalism to me means more decision by majority, stronger role for the European Parliament, and also giving ourselves the means for the issue of defense, financial and military means to be effective.
So if I can summarize correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, would this be your first steps as well of taking steps to empower the European Parliament so that the representatives have maybe more to say? And on the other side, would you try to move towards quality majority voting? So get rid of the veto.
I would eliminate the veto.
Yeah.
I would take I would keep the unanimity only for the final decision about the accession of a new country. I think that to decide whether we want a new member of the club, we should all agree.
Okay.
For all the rest, I would extend the qualified majority voting. Can be super qualified majority. You can say that you have to represent whatever 70% of the European citizens to take certain particularly sensitive decision. But if you want to be efficient and if you want to provide the right answers on transnational challenges, you need to get rid of the veto. In parallel, you need also to ensure that all the decisions are taken both by the representative of the government in the council and the representative of the citizen in the parliament. That means that we have also to strengthen the role of the European Parliament. It's even more important when we talk on issues such as borders control, police, security, not because I think that the European Parliament should carry out the military strategy. Of course, that is something for the government, for the generals, for the but we need to ensure also to make it more acceptable by the public opinion that if we develop a new strategy, a new action in terms of security at European level, there is also a European democratic supervision and control.
Sure. Yep. Okay. There's a question from our live audience, and I feel like it may be good if you could try to explain it. User Oli Studio 45, or actually, my bad, Andy, user Andy asks, how do you want to form a federation if we don't have a constitution? So for the audience, I think most of you know that the member states of the European Union never agreed on a constitution. So what would we have to change? Which treaty would we have to go back to Lisbon again, or?
But I think that this is certainly an important question, but it's not indispensable. If you take the first part of the treaties, if you take the Treaty on the European Union, you got the fundamental principle, the fundamental values, the objective, the role of the key institution, which are described as if it was a constitutional text.
Yep.
So in my view, the point is not we cannot have a federal Europe because we don't have a constitution.
Okay.
The point is what we have to modify in the current treaties to ensure that we can respect those principles and reach those goals already enshrined in the treaty in a more effective and democratic way, i.e. through a federal method.
Sure, sure, okay. I think I want to talk a little bit more about exactly what you just mentioned, the practical steps necessary to reach that. So maybe it is good to explain slightly where the powers of this would lie, what actions should be taken or what can be taken by MEPs such as yourself, or where do other parts come in? So for example, the member states obviously have something to say about it as well. So what are those steps that you can envision that could be, if possible, taken within the first years?
I think in this mandate, in this term, we have to discuss within the European Parliament and with member states on what are the indispensable institutional and political reform. That doesn't mean to redo from A to Z the treaties. That means what it is absolutely necessary that we decide together. And in my view, it is absolutely necessary to get rid of the veto, to give us the political, financial, and industrial means to develop a truly European defense. And also we need to agree on how to strengthen European democracy. I think that we must vote directly the European political parties.
Sure.
We must elect a part of the member of the European Parliament through common list in a single European Union constituency. I mean, these are, in my view, the indispensable reform together with new resources in the budget, because with this budget, without new European resources, we will never have the means to reach our goal in terms of defense, in terms of green transition, in terms of innovation challenges. So this, in my view, it is in the indispensable package, and we have to see to build up majority in the European Parliament and to see what are the governments which agree to go along this line. Probably at the beginning it won't be all the 27.
Yeah.
Probably at the beginning will be a group of countries, but we have to go along this way.
Okay. I'm going to check. I feel like someone said that they had just a moment that we were away. I hope that's fixed for now with the audio at least. Every other word is cutting out. I want to make sure that we at least have audio because otherwise this doesn't work. It's just annoying that I can't really influence the quality of our internet here. I apologize. Let's see if it maybe breaks up already. Drop frames. Okay. Hopefully it should be better now. But I wanted to first address the chat for a little bit. So if you have any questions about this topic, please do not hesitate to ask. We will try to include it. But I wanted to go to the elephant in the room, which is whether we like it or not, kind of outside your political view, we see a certain rise in more right-wing parties throughout the European Union, both in the parliament but also in the member states themselves. And I think it's pretty safe to say that most of these parties do not necessarily share the idea of closer European integration. So the question is twofold. One, how can you convince or how can you include these people that vote for these more right-wing parties? How do you include them in the process? Is there a way you could convince them? And second of all, how can you work with the political entities, so the actually political groups? So I'm thinking more Patriots for Europe, Sovereignists of Nations, and even to some extent the ECR. How can you include them in this project? Because I think at the end of the day, when we see this rising trend, more people need to be involved. At least that's my opinion. So what is your
no, but I don't think, I think it certainly it is a challenge. The rise of extreme right, the rise of European forces are certainly one of the biggest challenges for us nowadays. But on the other side, on the other hand, I do not think that is a bad development. The fact that now more and more Europe is at the center of the political debate.
Okay.
And I think that we have to push more and more Europe to be at the center of the political debate.
Do you think that's happening right now?
I think that it is happening without full awareness, because when the extreme right sovereignist forces talk about borders control, ensuring our defense, ensuring our security, when they say sovereignty is the central issues, but I mean, they don't realize that, yes, sovereignty is certainly one of the central issues. The point is how we can ensure our real sovereignty. And in my view, on issues that are at the center of the debate, migration, security, defense, the only possibility in a world of empires like China, United States, the only possibility for the Europeans to exist, to protect their values and interests, and to promote also our priorities on this global scene is not to go back to national policies, is to build up a truly European sovereignty. So I mean, this is the way we have to work. In the European Parliament, we have identified together with the European People's Party and Social Democrat some key policy points that around which we are committed, and I think that we should be open during the term to all those political forces, be it from the right, from the left, that want to join us on those political points. And among these, there is certainly the issue of European defense, and there is certainly the issue of treaty reform.
Yep. Okay, so it's definitely take the conversation of sovereignty, because that's probably a very large part of this the more right-wing areas of we want to keep national sovereignty, and make sure that it is understood that Europe is not necessarily incompatible with a country's sovereignty, but you will probably lose all of it if you don't start working together with your European neighbors.
That is exactly the point. I mean, it is also a question of language, of semantic issue, because
absolutely.
In some countries the word federalism is seen like a threat to national or regional identities. It is seen like a plot to create a European superstate. Federalism is exactly the opposite. Federalism is the best way of preserve our national identities, our national autonomy and our national independence, while doing together things that we cannot do effectively anymore, remain separate. That is federalism. So, I mean, Europe must only do what the cities, the region, or the nation state cannot do effectively anymore. And it is only doing this, only pooling our resources, pooling our political actions, that we can be effective on issues like those we are talking today. I insist, defense, security, migration, these are issues that require a European action. It must be federalist. Why? Because we want it to be effective and democratic.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. So I think I asked my most burning question, but I would like to give the audience a chance as well, because we have a few questions also surrounding federalism. So we have user Regibov, asks, what would Mr. Gozi think is a realistic time for federalization? Like the next 5 years, 10 years, etc. Are we actually moving towards it? So what timeline are you thinking about?
It is, I hope that we will take other new step towards a federalist Europe in this term. We have already started. Europe, for some aspect, is already a federal structure. For other aspect, it's not. I mean, when Europe decide, for example, on the internal market, by majority voting in the government, with the full control and role of the representative of the European Parliament. When Europe decide, as it has decided, that European law prevails of national law, this is already a federalist dimension. We need to move on issue on which it is urgent a most effective European action. And I would say that certainly it is in the innovation challenge, the defense challenge, and the migratory challenge. So I hope that in the next 5 to 10 years we can move with the federalist approach on these three key topics.
And as quickly as possible if it were up to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. We have another question. User Ollie Studio 45 asks, what do we need to do from Mr. Gozi's federalism perspective to deal with Russian hybrid warfare and the invasion of Ukraine during a Trump administration?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's see what will be the Trump proposal and the Trump initiative on Ukraine. It is clear that we must continue to do what we have done so far, and even more, we must stand by our Ukrainian allies. Whatever Trump decided to do, we need to continue to provide support, military and economic support to Ukraine. And because I mean, of course, I hope that we can also with the push of the new President of the United States, reach a deal, an agreement which is supported by Kiev and not only, of course, by Moscow. It is clear that then the major, the actor which will be the most responsible for the future of Ukraine, it will be us. And around the Ukrainian rapprochement and accession to the European Union, we can work a lot to take those bold steps in terms of political and institutional reforms which are already absolutely necessary today and which become even more necessary when we decide to enlarge to a big country like Ukraine plus the country from the Western Balkans. So I mean, if we want to take on fully our geopolitical challenges and responsibilities, it is impossible to do so without reform.
Yeah, without reform.